you. Welcome, Dr. McDougall. We're so glad to
Thank
see
you.
you. I was
You know
just
what I
giving
wanted,
some of my food tips, but I was running out of things, so I'm glad you're on.
I wanted to share something. I had the headlines this week. I don't know where you want to go with this since we've gotten off to it now. Today is about parents of a vegan child being arrested.
Oh,
Did you haven't heard that? Oh, it's all over the world. I
I
don't
did
know.
not see it.
Well, for one thing, what is a vegan child? They can feed the kid anything, but the fact
It
that
could be anything.
the fact that it's a vegan child gets worldwide headlines, and of course, this is in line with my thoughts on how things work. Industry wants to find anything that will scare people away from eating vegetables. They won't talk about all the other problems with food, but anytime a vegetable is incriminated or a vegetarian way of eating is incriminated in a health issue, they're going to blast it all over the world because their high profit products are meat and dairy and so on. Well, I think that's kind of interesting that that's gotten the sole attention of Italy. Let me see if I can find something here. This is what I wanted to share with you. Can you see this? Can you see this? That it says, yeah, there. That's right. Of the 10 countries lead the world in childhood obesity. Nope, the U.S. is not number one. Then look down halfway in the page, and you see number 2 is what?
Italy.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
And you can see the flag.
Sure.
So Italy has the second highest incidence of childhood obesity in the world, and it gets no attention at all. And we have one child who has, and the child may have been mistreated. I mean, good grief. How many parents get courses on how to feed their children, and how many parents are imbalanced, and how many parents, get some false message about how a child should eat. Maybe they're feeding them broccoli and kale, and who knows? Not the kind of diet that I recommend. And so it goes picked up, and it is. I've seen it at least 4 times in the last 4 days. This world, this breaking news world story about how we have to take and solve this problem of one vegan child becoming malnourished. And yet Greece is number 1, Italy is number 2. I think in the incidence of childhood obesity worldwide. I mean, that's just
right.
But I would like to talk about children for just a minute, and then maybe you have some good ideas on how we can make this an entertaining space, even though we got off late.
I do have a few questions that I didn't get to ask you last time, so we can fit in those.
Not only do I have the right to talk to you about children because I have had 3 of my own, and I have 7 grandchildren, and I used to be a family practitioner. I've caught almost 100 babies in a rural hospital in Honoka'a, Hawaii. Didn't drop a one. And I have counseled hundreds of women on how to feed their kids, thousands actually, on how to feed their kids, both from the dark ages when I didn't know better and I thought cow's milk was good and it was important to eat meat, and also from the enlightened ages, which have been since about 1977. So how do you feed a kid? Well, it's all natural, folks. It just all comes out natural. The baby's delivered. The baby is flopped up on mother's chest. An immediate interaction is latching on. The child latches to the mother's nipple, starts taking in a pre-milk fluid. And this causes all kinds of positive things to happen in the baby and in the mother. Causes her uterus to contract, the bleeding to stop. It all just goes as it should. And this early milk is a different kind of fluid than the later milk is. Milk changes in its consistency as the hours and days go along. This is called colostrum, this early milk. And of course, it's ideally designed for a human baby, and that's what a human baby should have. Now we can talk a little bit about what happens if a human baby can't get natural milk. Things don't work well. I mean, they work and they survive, particularly in developed countries. In underdeveloped countries, it's estimated that 1 million children a year die as a consequence of bottle feeding. But in developed countries, they somehow do survive bottle feeding at a relatively good rate. I don't think they're ever the same. I don't think a bottle-fed baby is ever the same quality of a baby as a breastfed baby is. We have documentation that bottle-fed babies have lower IQs, speech problems, all kinds of developmental problems. They also grow too fat. They grow at the wrong rate. They don't go to get the hormones that the mother naturally produces. They don't get the antibodies that the mother naturally produces. The baby is not drinking out of the proper container. The proper container, by the way, is at the right temperature, right size, right touch, always clean. So don't miss the opportunity of feeding the baby from the proper container. And almost all women can breastfeed. On rare occasions, they can't. So what do you do? Well, in normal societies, healthy societies, what you do is you pass the baby off to your sister or your best friend. And as a result, the baby gets good, clean breast milk from a healthy woman in your community. In our society, that kind of practice is considered close to pornography. So we wouldn't do it. Somehow a dirty thing. But it really is a dirty thing. The breast milk in women who eat the American diet is so filthy, dirty, contaminated that it should be disposed in a hazardous waste dump. And by the way, this has been seriously said for Eskimo women, Inuit Eskimos. Their breast milk is a hazardous waste, and so are their body tissues. Now, a lot of women in the U.S. eat like Eskimos. They eat high on the food chain with the meat and the fish and the poultry and so on. And so they have just a load of these chemicals in their tissues and in their breast milk. And it's estimated that during the first 6 months of breastfeeding, half the pesticides are delivered out of the mother's milk into the baby. So I would not, in our society, hand my baby, if it couldn't breastfeed, over to a surrogate mother. The milk's too dirty. Now, if it was a clean mother, eating the kind of food that we eat, then yeah, I think it's absolutely the best thing to do. So what do you do if the baby can't, if you're not going to go that route, or you're not going to get a milk bank milk, which, by the way, is dirty milk also, for the same reasons I told you, from milk banks. Then the best thing to do is to get denatured hypoallergenic cow's milk formula. You can't buy it in New Zealand without a prescription. You can buy it in the United States without a prescription. It's a hypoallergenic formula. And what they've done is they've taken the cow milk protein and they've denatured it, so you don't get these autoimmune allergic type reactions, and they purify it. Well, when they put it together in such a formula that it tastes terrible. The babies don't like it. And the reason the babies don't like it is they don't put much sugar in it. If you compare the hypoallergenic formula that you buy off the shelves with the regular baby formula made by the same company, you'll find that regular baby formula is higher in sugar. Well, babies like sugar, obviously, and I don't know why the companies don't make them with the same level of sugar. Maybe they make more profit off of the regular formula than they do the specially prepared purified formula. I really think there's probably some industrial trick in there, save a penny here or there. So if you're in that situation and you must use the formula, I suggest that you buy the hypoallergenic denatured purified baby formula. And then you look at the sugar content and compare it to the regular sugar content of milk that would be fed at the same age, and then just take some table sugar and boost up the sugar content. Now, if you don't want to go through all that, you can go to my newsletter, and under hot topics, under children and pregnancy, there's an article on children. Halfway through that article is a paragraph that tells you how to make the formula up, how much sugar to add to each ounce of milk. And as time goes on, you can slowly reduce the amount of table sugar. But you want the child to, the child's designed for a certain amount of sweetness in that milk. And if the denatured product doesn't deliver that type of appetite, that type of taste, deliver the appetite, then you could have problems. So bump up the sugar, and then as time goes on, bump it back down again. So that's you feed a child that way exclusively for 6 months, and then as time goes on, the formula or breast milk, ideally. And by the way, the mother who's feeding the baby, whatever she eats goes into the baby. So if she has dirty milk, I was just talking about sharing your baby as getting a surrogate mother for the baby. Hey, ladies, and your loving husbands, who are both extremely concerned about that baby, if you, mother, providing milk, are eating dirty food, that dirty food, those PCPs, DDTs, heptachlors, methylmercuries, all those things are going into your baby. Which brings me to one other point before I go on. And that is, if you, as a mother, as a child, plan to be a mother, now is the time to clean up your act. Because those you're eating when you're 3 years old and 6 years old and 10 years old, they're fat soluble, and they get into your body fat, and they remain there until you're 21 years old. And then when you start nursing the baby and the fat starts dissolving to provide the energy for the baby, those pesticides and so on that you ate when you were 2 and 3 are now going into the baby. So you need to start eating clean. You need to feed your children and grandchildren clean early in life, because it'll count later in life. And we could go into the whole thing about males, what they eat, the amount of folate, some of the chemicals they eat will cause them to produce babies that have serious deformities, including Down syndrome from the male. All right, so we're up to getting off the breast milk at, say, about 2 years of age. You don't have to. You can go breastfeed to your 3 or 4 or 5. But generally, 2 years of age, the gastrointestinal tract is mature. The hands can grab up, get the food. All the enzymes in the gut are ready to go. You got good teeth. You can chomp on that solid food. So at that time, you may want to wean. You may want to. But you don't wean from human breast milk to cow's milk. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's as ridiculous as weaning from human breast milk to dog milk. I mean, you got a dog. Why bother going to the grocery store? Just buy a dog. Just, you know how silly it is. All right, so what you do is you wean them to water, or you could use fruit juice, but you need to be careful because fruit juice can rot their teeth. And so can, I have to mention to you, so can improper breastfeeding. Just regular breastfeeding, you can rot the kid's teeth. Some mothers lay there with the baby latched to their nipple day and night, and that sugar in that natural breast milk will rot the teeth. And so you have to be careful about over breastfeeding too. There are times to breastfeed, but those times aren't 24 hours a day. All right, so you want to be careful about fruit juices. If you're going to give the kids fruit juices, you don't want to rot their teeth. You want to rinse them off and clean them after such high sugar intake. The food, the kids go on starch-based diets. Starting at 6 months of age, you introduce starch, and you increase the starch until 2 years. You add some fruits. They don't like vegetables. They're bitter. You can try and get some vegetables down them, but they're bitter. The kids don't like them. And there's reasons for that, and we've talked about that previously. And as age progresses, you will increase the amount of starch and decrease the amount of fluids, milk in particular. And children do well. Now, children are real active and they're real fast, and they have high calorie demand. So you might want to do things in a child's diet, particularly if you're concerned about them not getting enough solid food from, say, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and so on. I think it's very reasonable to add higher calorie substances that are healthy. Fruits would be good. Dried fruits would work. Jellies would work. Nuts and seeds and avocados, fine. You don't want the kids choking on the nuts and seeds, but you could always feed them nut butters, peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the cow milk butter. A clean peanut butter and jelly sandwich would be good. You could also make your soups with added tahinis. Get a little extra fat, a little extra sugar in the child's diet for their energy needs. And this is particularly, this is important throughout childhood. If you want a big child, tall, you need to make sure they get lots of calories. And we're talking about clean calories during their biggest growth period, which is adolescence. This will cause them to grow taller. Now, if you overnourish them with animal foods, you will cause them to become sexually mature at younger ages. You don't want to do that. I mean, you can get 3% of black girls are showing breast buds and pubic hair at 3 years of age. 8% of black girls are showing breast buds and pubic hair at age 8. And for white children, the years are just a couple ahead. So, you don't want to sexually premature your child, but you may want them big. As a matter of fact, this sexual prematurity also closes the epiphyse growth plates in the joints, and they will actually become shorter than their potential if you feed them the Western diet. So they will be short and fat. And you can prevent all this, give lots of good, clean calories, high calorie food. They grow well, but you don't close the epiphyseal plates and stop their growth. And, it all just naturally works. And we did all that discussion because worldwide headlines say there is a vegan child who is malnourished and the parents have been arrested. Excuse me, child abuse goes on by the hundreds of millions of children from their parents and the food companies every day. And we're getting headlines from this little kid. Oh, well, I wanted to know if you had questions.
No, it's really, you have to wonder if it's, again, the industry behind all of this,
Wonder.
Well, I'm trying to be nice.
Good grief. They're making products like pizzas and ice cream,
Right.
and fried chicken right out of a package you can microwave, and cow's milk, and not just cow's milk, because the kids don't like cow's milk. You got to fill it full of sugar and chocolate. Industry involved.
Right. Dr. McDougall, there is a little bit of a thread of comments here that I find interesting. If you could clarify, because one of the listeners says that he finds it interesting that Dr. McDougall endorses the consumption of sugar when it is commonly known that sugar feeds the growth of both fungus and cancer. And then someone else says, well, there is a difference between sugar as for flavoring and sugar as food. What would you have anything to say to that?
First of all, I do not know that sugar encourages the growth of cancer. I cannot find research to support that, and it isn't even logical. Furthermore, sugar does not encourage the growth of fungus. What encourages the growth of fungus, various Taenia species, yeasts, they grow primarily under people's breasts and in their armpits and between their legs and in the vagina. What encourages that is high sugar levels in the blood. And those high sugar levels in the blood are not from eating sugar, they're from eating fat and becoming fat. Actually, sugar will make insulin work better, and fat paralyzes insulin. So you got it all mixed up. Now, why does Dr. McDougall advocate eating sugar? It's not health food. It'll rot your teeth. It's empty calories. Nothing in it but sugar. But it does taste good. And I just plain and simple want you to eat the food. You know, I don't want to win a battle. I want to win the war. And if I can add a little bit of brown sugar to the top of your oatmeal in the morning, and you'll eat it and like it, as opposed to not eating it and going for the bacon and eggs, then I'm willing to, scientifically, as a doctor, I'm willing to sacrifice this little bit of pleasure for better nutrition for you. You know how they said in the Mary Poppins movie, a little bit of sugar makes the medicine go down. And it's the same thing with salt. We put the sugar and the salt on the surface of the food because that's where the taste buds taste these pleasurable substances. You only have two pleasurable taste buds, correct categories of pleasurable taste buds. And those are for salt and sugar. We are designed as salt and sugar seekers. We need these minerals. It's just that industry has discovered this and they have overladen everything with salt and sugar. I mean, you can buy a soda with 300 calories of sugar in it. You can't eat cheese without dumping loads of salt in it. You know, people can't even eat most meats. It's pretty tough to eat meat, even if you cook it, until you throw a barbecue sauce over the top that contains salt, sugar, and spice to cover up the disgusting or bland taste. So we're designed to seek out and consume salt, sugar, and spice. But because of industry's discovery of this and people's inability to distinguish what is okay from what is a drive as strong as a heroin addict, people have gotten in trouble. And
right.
Why I use a little bit of sugar and salt is because it makes food taste better.
Right.
And I want you to eat the food.
Now, you're not saying when you talk about food that to go out and have a piece of cake or chocolate chip cookies or a candy bar. We're just talking about sprinkling a little bit of sugar on something.
Yeah, a little salt on. Right. Like, for example, your mashed potatoes may taste better if you put a little salt on the surface, or you make a gravy. Mary has a phenomenal gravy. And
I just find it interesting that people, there's someone here online that says that her oncologist told her that cancer loves sugar. I wonder where
the oncologist needs to make me aware of the scientific research to support that, because I've looked for it on many occasions. I can't find it. I'll show you the studies that have been done since the 1920s that show that polyunsaturated fats like vegetable oils, saturated fats like animal fats, total calorie intake, cholesterol. I'll show you the scientific research done on experimental animals, but you won't show me any scientific research done on feeding sugar to experimental animals and promotion of cancer growth. I can't find it. You know, you find it, send it to me. You know what my email address is. And don't send me some sloppy little written paper from somebody who dreamed this up in the back of their health food store. Show me some respect. Give me some decent research that was done, and it has to be done before the 1980s, because since the 1980s, essentially all research has been tainted by industry. And whenever you read it, if it doesn't fit with what was done over the previous 100 years prior to 1980, or doesn't fit with logic, then you need to dig a little deeper into their methodology, and also don't overlook their funding source, and you'll see how they mix things up so that it would get the results that they wanted you as a consumer or as a physician, et cetera, to see. They pick endpoints that are irrelevant. They mix things up as far as endpoints go. Say it didn't reduce your risk of dying of heart disease, but maybe it reduced your risk of getting chest pain. Well, they mix the two together. You know, Anyway, there's so much fraudulent activity going on in the scientific research businesses in terms of drugs and food and procedures that it would be fair to say you cannot trust anything published since 1980.
Right. Well, I mean, what you say, it's something that I know frustrates so many people when they get all this conflicting research. And like you said, you have to look deeper and look at the methodology, look at who's the funding source. And a lot of people don't see that. I don't have time to look.
Well, let's just take this Italian child who was on a vegan diet. What would be the motivation in the world? I would just guess right now, on a vegan diet, there must be thousands of children starving to death. Their vegan diet is because they don't have anything to eat. Let's make a big deal about that. Well, these are starving children, so why talk about that? They have no vegetables, no meat, no nothing. But we find this one kid whose parents maybe misguided, I don't know the whole story, but certainly made the claim that they were vegan and following their children were following a vegan diet. The press picked up on that, and that makes headlines. People want to hear good news about their bad habits. Industry wants to hear those vegetables could be highly dangerous. You must eat. See, if it says vegan, that says you must drink milk and you must eat meat. See, that's what vegan says.
Right.
In this context. So the industry is very pleased about this. Makes an interesting story. You see, you're going to go, oh, see, Aunt Millie, I always told you this vegan diet was bad for you. Look at this story in the paper. This one little kid, nearly, he got veganism, died
right.
from veganism.
That's
and it's just, and then they don't show the second thing I showed you there, that in Italy, the highest incidence of childhood obesity, second highest incidence in the world, is in Italy. Yeah, it goes by the same rules. It's money.
Yeah.
Money and egos. That's it.
Dr. McDougall, I have someone that has sent me a question a couple of times, and I haven't ignored it, but there were others that I thought had priority because I think you have addressed this before. I know you have, but would you just one more time say a few words about this? This person who sent me an email says, my wife has tried changing from an animal-based to a whole foods, plant-based diet several times now, and each time her blood glucose level rises significantly from the low 90s to the high 150s or higher during the first several days. She's not a diabetic and is concerned that increased carbohydrates will make her one. So what could possibly be going on here, and how can she proceed safely?
Well, that's not what happens to other people.
Right. It's unusual.
Let's just say it's extremely unusual. When people, it depends on when you're checking your sugar too. If you check your sugar right after you eat, the purpose of eating sugar is to raise the blood sugar. If you're checking your sugar after a long fast, which is why they call it a fasting blood sugar, then you will find your blood sugar levels to be lower after eating high carbohydrate meals. See, there's no sugar in meat. There's no sugar in there's no sugar in cheese. There's almost no sugar in milk. Well, there's very little sugar in milk. Chicken, no sugar. So if you eat these foods and you check your blood sugar right after you eat, you're going to find a very small rise in blood sugar. These are low glycemic index foods. But if you eat, say, fruit or beans or rice, these are high carbohydrate foods. The purpose of these foods is to raise your blood sugar to give you energy all over the body. So it may be dependent upon when she's checking her sugar. If you check your sugar fasting, say, what you find is that the fasting blood sugars are generally lower. We've proved this in our research on 1,615 people. It's been proved by many other people, including Nathan Pritikin on work for 4,500 people. James Anderson, University of Kentucky, he published research in the 70s and 80s. University of Kentucky Medical School in the 70s and 80s, showing that when you switch from or you switch to a high sugar diet, high carbohydrate diet, blood sugars go down. Almost everybody gets off diabetic pills. So all the research says the same thing. I don't think your wife is an enigma. I think there is something easy to explain as to what's going on. And regardless, there's so many other reasons to stop eating the meat. I met with some people that went salmon fishing recently. And I don't eat, fish. I tell people I eat a vegan diet. I am not a vegan. I have a car that has a leather steering wheel and I wear leather shoes and so on. And I also tell people I eat turkey every other Thanksgiving, so they're absolutely certain I'm not a vegan. But one thing that you will never, ever, ever find me doing is eating any animal food from the sea. I have a chapter in a book and also a newsletter called Confessions of a Fish Killer, because I did horrible things when I was a young man to the ocean. Speared and spearfished and line fished, and just it makes me sad just to think of the way I behaved. And so I made a pledge to myself 15 years ago that I would never eat anything ever from the sea again. I mean, I'll eat seaweed, but I'm not going to eat. I suppose seaweed has little animal creatures in it. But in the sense of regularly thought of sea life, I will have not eaten any of that for at least 15 years, and we'll never do it. Well, anyway, we got together, close friends, and I happened to be close enough to smell her. And I hadn't thought about the fact that she'd just eaten salmon about 3 hours before. And I smelled her, and I thought, you smell like salmon. And she kind of smiled and I said, well, what'd you expect? You just ate salmon. I mean, what do you expect? If you're going to eat these foods, salmon is easy to notice. So that people used to talk a lot about and have written much about how when the white man went to Alaska, one of the things they noted was that the native people smelled like fish. And if you're going to eat cows, you're going to smell like cows. And if you're going to eat pigs, you're going to smell like pigs. If you're going to eat chicken, you're going to smell like chicken. If you're going to eat cheese, they have a saying, cutting the cheese, you're going to stink like what you eat. Now, if you eat potatoes and rice and corn and so on, I've never considered those offensive smells, even when I was a hardcore meat eater. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're getting back to the blood sugar on your wife. She's all worried and so on, and tell her, well, honey, I'd rather have you sweet. I'd rather have you sweet than to stink like an old pig.
Yeah. So, Dr. McDougall, do you have every now and then, do you eat seaweed?
Yeah, I do. If it's just hanging around, the kids like it. The kids like it, so I'll have a piece or two. And again, you hardcore vegans, you can come down on me. They're little animals living on that seaweed.
All right.
That's okay. Perfection is not what perfection in education is what I strive for. Perfection in carrying out what you know is a whole individual thing for people to do. I very seldom take stands, ethical stands. That I'm going to do this because I believe, and like I've told you with the fish, my fish stance is an ethical stand. I guess it's an apology for me to the oceans and the lakes for something I was completely unaware of. And so that's really, if you want to fault me for taking unscientific points of view, there you go. There's one. Yeah, but the rest of them, I've said many times, I'd eat a beef steak before I'd eat a salmon or a piece of turtle, or I'd eat a pig butt. They're both of similar nature, but I just have this ethical thing about fish that I personally take. And by the way, it's not shared with my family. and it's not shared with my friends. And I try never to make an issue out of it. People just know that I don't eat it, and they don't say anything. They just leave me alone, which I think is cool. And if I decided to turn around and eat a piece of birthday cake, and somebody said to me, well, the salmon is healthier than the birthday cake, I'd say, well, it's principles here you're looking at.
It's principles, exactly. Yeah, it's true. I never went to the ocean to fish or anything, but I do have something about ocean food. I will not eat any kind of fish whatsoever. I just think that we're doing great harm. Dr. McDougall, tell us just a little bit about, before we end, because we're almost at an hour. So when you write your newsletters, in your articles, most of them, if not all of them, have hyperlinks to the actual research. So when you say something, it's not just you're making it up. Tell us a little bit about that, because people sometimes don't know where it comes from or how to get to that research, but it is available through your newsletters, right?
Oh, it's just so easy. In my past books, I always had to use references, because they were hard books.
Right.
And so I'd refer to the scientific literature, and you'd have to go to the library and look it up. These days, because of the internet and the way many responsible publishers act, you can link a word or a short sentence. You can link it to that actual article, and you click on that, and the full article comes up as if it was in a page on a book. And I try, and when I'm picking between articles that say similar things, I try to pick open access articles so that the curious person can click on that link and go with open access and read the entire article, read what I read right there. They don't have to get up. Occasionally, the articles are copyrighted, and I will still link to where the source is, so you can go to the library, write your library, one way or another. You can get this article, or you can buy it. Actually, they sell you the article for $35 usually, right through the internet if you want to pay for it, or you can get it, go to the library and get it for free. We published two very important publications over the last 2 years. One was on 1,615 of my patients that went through my live-in clinic, and shows amazing adherence to the diet. 85% of people followed the diet 100% of the time. It shows about a 20-point drop in cholesterol and about a 20-point drop in pounds in weight that was maintained for a year. It shows some phenomenal things. I didn't say that right. The first paper showed I was talking to you about the second paper. The second paper was just published last week from Oregon Health and Science University. That paper was done by Oregon Health and Science University. It was done on over 60 people. It was a randomized, controlled, blinded study, as clean as you can be. There will be no criticism of that study in terms of the methodology. And that study was published last week, and we had a choice of not making it available for a year, which is the standard procedure of that particular journal, which is Multiple Sclerosis and Related Disorders is the name of the journal, is they leave it to be paid for by interested people for a year. Well, we paid an extra $3,000 so that would be open access from day one. So that article you can get, it's available. And that's what the results showed. 20-pound weight loss, 20-point drop in cholesterol, 85% of people adhered to the diet, dramatic reduction in fatigue for people with MS, and so on. And then we published another study, which is open access. Again, you just click on it. And that was published in Nutrition Journal, October 2014, showed the results of 1,615 people. Their average weight loss in a week was over 3 pounds. Their drop in cholesterol was 23 points in 1 week. We got 90% of people to reduce or stop all their blood pressure and blood sugar pills. Yeah, and mostly insulin, type 2 diabetics. So all that's published. Never been criticized, by the way. I mean, that one paper's been up for 2 years. I've not heard a word of critique because it's the truth. And this new paper by OHSU will be up. And I doubt if we'll hear any criticism because it's honest science. Well, how do you criticize honest science?
Right.
Without making a fool of yourself.
You can't. Well, Dr. McDougall, we always learn from you, even in a webinar like today where we hadn't planned on it. But
yeah, really. You said, can you come on? Can you come on? I said, well, I have one piece of clothes on. Do you want me to take it off or put it or put more on?
Right.
We decided you wouldn't pay as much attention if I took a piece of cloth and clothes I had off.
For one thing, we could find out once and for all if you have a tattoo or not.
That's right. Nobody's finding out if I have a tattoo. Do not calf. I will sue. Unless they come to the January 2017 Kauai trip. And by the way, you are going.
Yes, I am excited.
Oh, you're going, and I have to tell you, Mary stopped getting rooms.
Oh,
so yeah, she's we have over 100 people. We are not signing up for any more rooms. If you want to get in on that trip, you can call and see if a room frees up, or she can beg to get one for you. But we're done. No, we got enough.
I know she had asked for new rooms for like 3 times, so it's been very good.
Yeah, it's enough people, and it's a great trip.
Great trip.
And then we've been having some other thoughts about our adventure trips. So we're Mary's 70. I'm almost 70 years old, and we've been doing this for 30 years. And we've had some thoughts about not traveling so much, but every time we do that, then we think, hey, but wouldn't we like to take a whole bunch of people here?
Right.
And we're thinking about Iceland for next summer.
Oh, I love that. I've always wanted to see Iceland.
Wow, maybe the first one to sign on. So we're thinking maybe Iceland next summer, and then we're thinking of maybe going back to Alaska to a different route in the summer of 2018. And one of the major reasons is this new Zika virus that's scaring people worldwide.
Yes.
Yeah, we're a little afraid. Infection rates in Puerto Rico are 28%. This virus persists in the male sperm for at least 6 months. It's a big deal, and I'm afraid even if we could convince our travelers to put a lot of DEET on and to treat their clothing and be very careful about mosquitoes, I think just the fear of going to that part of the world these days would make it hard for us to fill a trip. As global warming progresses, then we have more dangerous vermins moving north and south. And even though we don't have those kinds of problems up here in Northern California, they're already having them in Florida and Texas. So we have to plan 2 years ahead. And so we're thinking of go north, young man. And you can write us. We'd love to have you write us and tell us where you'd like to go.
Right.
But that's kind of our planning stages. The Iceland thing would be a hotel trip, and but certainly the Alaska would be another great ship.
Oh.
But it will not be the National Geographic line.
Yeah.
Did I tell you why?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, because it's I didn't know it beforehand, but after telling you about it, it is owned by Fox, Fox company, Fox News, with Rupert Murdoch, one of the greatest global warming deniers that the world still has. And they didn't talk about global warming on the whole trip, and I couldn't figure out why. And you folks wrote me back and said, well, Rupert Murdoch, he's the guy that runs the ship, so to speak. And that's why they didn't talk about it. We presented it to the company, by the way, to the cruise line and to National Geographic. And they did some hemming and hawing and apologizing. And we said, well, you can do all that you want, but we ain't coming back. So we're going to go on a different cruise line.
Right. Well, people are saying, let's go to Ireland.
Ireland. We have thought about Ireland. Enough of you write us and say you want to go to Ireland, and that's a possibility too.
Right. I would love Ireland.
Yeah, just write to office at drmcdougall.com. That'd be the good thing to do. Tell us where you want to go. But
Right.
we're not going south anymore, not to the equator, which just seems to be too much.
Mm-hmm.
And we do want to remind people about the Advanced Study Weekend coming up the 16th to the 18th of September.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. You'll be there also. We're going to have T. Colin Campbell there. Dean Arnish will be there. Susan Roberts, who's at Tufts, Tulane. She's at the Center of Human Aging. So you can learn all about diet and aging from Susan Roberts. Mandrola, who's an expert on heart disease and in particular atrial fibrillation.
I think I have here, Dr. McDougall, the screen that shows
good.
your
Does it show the different people who are going to be
yeah.
there? I'll have to move up a little bit.
Let me move it up a little bit here. Hold on, let me get to this.
And we have something really special too. We have the doctors of the future who are going to be there.
Right.
The doctors of the future will be Anthony Lim, who is our medical director. Yeah, there you go. There, Dean Ornish, Osner, Susan Roberts from it is Tufts University Aging section. Big hotshot. Nelson Campbell, the head of Plant Pure Nation, which is making great strides in changing people around the world. That's one of Colin's sons. And also we have Tom Campbell will be there, Alona Paldy and Matt Letterman. They run the medical division for Whole Foods Markets. Anthony Lim runs our program, of course. And Craig McDougall runs Zoom Prime up in Oregon. So we'll have the young doctors there. I also invited their dads. I would have invited their mothers too, but their dads are involved in medicine and nutrition. They're professionals. And we're going to have a little panel at the end of the day having the dads talk about their sons and why they are the persons they are and what they really think about them. And it's going to be quite personal.
Right.
And so it's going to be an advanced study weekend unlike any other we've ever done, but you're going to walk away and you're going to say, that was the best advanced study weekend I've ever been to.
It looks wonderful. Well, Dr. McDougall, it's time to close our webinar here.
Yes.
And again, from me and from everybody else here online, thank you for making the time to be here. It's very generous.
Well, thank you. Thank you for thinking of me.
I was thinking, who could I call?
Who would I call?
Hope you have a great rest of the day. And everybody else here too. And
the grandkids are coming over. We're going swimming.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, and Mary, let's see, what does Mary plan for dinner? Oh, I don't know. We have all. We had
delicious.
We had oatmeal for breakfast this morning. We had our bean dish with potatoes last night.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I'm going to have my roasted potatoes right now for lunch.
There you go. I hope everybody else enjoys their food.
All right.
Thank
you.
Folks,
and goodbye, everyone. Okay. Bye.